Odcast continued. Our pregame coverage of Arkansas, LSU Arkansas, continues. We're going to talk about LSU's Ty Davis-Price and some other stuff that pertains to the LSU Arkansas game. But starting off with Ty Davis-Price, he had 104 rushing yards, a touchdown against Arkansas last year, and he even caught a touchdown, a diving touchdown catch that was wrongfully wiped off the board there. Ty had a great game against Arkansas last year. Now, at 731 rushing yards already on the season, Ty is absolutely, it's a reality that he could go over 1,000 yards this year. Of course it is. This dude had 287 yards in a single game. So, yeah, him getting 287 yards over the final 3 games is definitely possible. 300-yard games, 6 touchdowns. The 300-yard game, basically, against Florida. 104 at Alabama. 1 yard more than Clyde Edwards-Helaire's historic, legendary 2019 performance, which, Clyde did it both on the ground and in the air. So that rushing statistic doesn't show all of what Ty did in that game. All of what Clyde did in 2019. Clyde won us that Alabama game. And Ty was very close to doing the same thing. Very close. And it's just incredible that his name is up there with Kevin Falk and Clyde as the only 3 running backs to ever amass 100 rushing yards in Tuscaloosa against Alabama. It's just, Ty has had a season that was what we hoped. We predicted he would be a 1,000-yard rusher for LSU this year. We are the only person in the media who predicted Ty to run for 1,000 yards rushing. He's close. That even looked more impossible just 4 weeks ago. Just 4 weeks ago, before that Florida game, even though Ty had just had 100 yards rushing against Kentucky, it was a case of LSU cannot run the football. And then we saw it happen against Florida, where everything blew up and LSU found their rhythm. Now, Ty, even against Ole Miss, there was nowhere to go against Ole Miss, and Ty ground away for 53 yards and a touchdown in that game. So, point is that Ty is going to run hard. He's going to run fast. He's going to run physical. Can he get over 100 yards again against Arkansas? Their rushing defense isn't amazing. It's about slightly above average. But they can be had. They can be had for large gains, and Ty can absolutely make them pay. This is a game behind Marlon Martinez, behind Cardell Thomas, where, call it a shocker, but I would not be surprised if LSU had a big running day, just because that's what seems to happen. Guys come in, know they have to prove it now, prove it or lose it, and they, more oftentimes than not at LSU, we find these great players that maybe we thought they were going to be great when we recruited them, when we signed them initially, and then they kind of get lost in the shuffle. They get lost in the drama of 2020 and the injuries and the coaching crisis of 2021. Well, now when LSU is depleted at certain spots, we come back around to some of these guys. Marlon Martinez was huge for LSU over the last few weeks in the running game, and then he was just gone. Chasen Hines was back in. Chasen Hines did okay, but once again, Hines was blown off the line, out-physicaled, and he's out again with an injury. Marlon Martinez out of St. Thomas Aquinas should have just kept his starting spot. And so I think him coming in, that's not going to hurt much. As I've said before, the position that's going to hurt more is Ed Ingram. Him being out. Cardell Thomas is going to have to take over that position and really make it his own. Like we've been hearing, Cardell Thomas is probably going to be taking over that spot at left guard. So very interesting there. I think Ty is going to have another big game. We predicted 133 rushing yards for Ty and a touchdown. I feel like he's going to have a great game here. And continue his strong NFL stock rising season. In the earlier video, I was thinking the trenches are going to settle this game. The trenches are going to settle this game. It's a Sam Pittman team, but and that's probably still true. But I'm actually really starting to feel whoever passes the ball better, of course, is going to win this game. Whoever can throw the touchdowns, whoever can complete those third downs, third and longs, whoever can continually get those chains to move in third down and long situations, they're going to win this game. Because at some point, both teams are going to be stuck in third downs, and either drives are going to stall or you're going to keep them going. Can KJ Jefferson and Burks keep it going against that defense now with Cordell Flott back in the picture? I think they can have some big plays, but I don't really feel that they're going to be a dominant passing team, even though LSU's secondary is somewhat depleted. Well, very depleted. When you look at how they performed last week, I think they'll be just fine against this receiving core. They should be. But, it could be a game where it's not exactly as it seems, and it could turn into a passing frenzy where if it's open, these two teams are going to take it. I expect LSU to come out passing the ball. I expect them to try and get Max into a rhythm, try and get Max to kind of be locked in. Whether he comes in and out, it doesn't matter. I think they want to send a message that Max is going to be the guy, get him in rhythm first. But here's the thing. If we're starting to put ourselves in the same position we found ourselves in last week, where we're about to beat Alabama, but just because we cannot complete a pass, we lose the game. All we need is 2 more completions against Alabama. That Trey Palmer completion, that catch right there, that Jack Besh pass over the middle. If we continuously see Max stepping back, stepping away from pressures, kind of dancing off his feet to make those throws, we need to see Nussmeier come in. Because as much as I want to see Max be successful, I want to see the team be successful first. The team matters more. The team is above all. Yes, last week I thought the right thing to do would be to leave Max in. I knew the plan was to save Nussmeier's red shirt. So I'm thinking the whole time, we're saving this guy's red shirt. Why are y'all freaking out? The whole time, apparently Nussmeier wanted his red shirt to be burned and he wanted to play. So there was some confusion there. Nussmeier's camp, his family went back and said, hey, we want him to play, if at all possible. And to kind of solidify the confidence his receivers have in him, you got to give this guy an extended shot, see what he's made of. This is the time, this is the moment. Can Garrett Nussmeier... I mean, here's the thing. Beating Arkansas isn't beating Alabama, of course. But if Garrett Nussmeier is able to come into a game where we're struggling, and he somehow can lead this team to a victory, Garrett Nussmeier is not only, setting himself up to be possibly the starter against Texas A&M and University of Louisiana Monroe, he could also be setting himself up in a great spot for 2022. Most people are expecting, probably Max Johnson to start for 2022. Walker Howard probably just watching and learning in his first season. I've heard a lot of people suggest that. Okay. But what about Garrett Nussmeier taking that spot from Max? And Max having to sit back as a second stringer while Walker is that third string for the freshman. That can happen. And that, if it's going to happen, it begins right now. If Garrett Nussmeier doesn't show the coaches anything over the next few games, if he regresses himself, it's not like he's just going to be able, it's Garrett and he's a freshman. There's high expectations for Garrett whenever he's in there. If Garrett doesn't perform, it's going to be a knock against his future and whether he can be the starting quarterback for LSU. Even though, he's a freshman, but he's at the same time he's wanting to play. He's wanting to be put into these situations, these tough scenarios against these opponents behind that offensive line with at times anonymous running attack. At times it's hard to find a receiver. If you give Nussmeier the ball and Nussmeier fulfills his promise and he wins us the game and he's better for the team than Max Johnson right now, you have to ride with Nussmeier. You have to ride with Nussmeier. So, for me, it's whoever looks the best in the passing game should keep that job for the rest of the game. Find out over the first two quarters, come out in that second half with a guy. I don't want to see shuffling in and out in the second half. I want to see it in the first half, and in the second half, you ride with the guy. You ride with that hot hand. If neither hand is hot, you keep shuffling them in and out until you find one. But I think it's more than okay to push Max to the brink here. I think Max thrives off of that. I think giving this starting job, having there be no competition for the starting job in fall, having Miles Brennan go out with the broken humerus, may be a negative thing when we look back at this season for Max's development. Because then it was obvious it was Max's job. Max was QB1. QB1 was put everywhere. Max was the starter. He went from feeling he was going to have to earn every second of that to win the job, to the job's yours. As much as he has a razor-sharp mentality inbred into him from his father, it's going to affect you when suddenly the job is yours and no one is there to contest it. It's your job. You are the quarterback. A mentality change will occur. would it have been better for Max's development for Miles to at least push him to his absolute, no pun intended, maximum so he could earn that job? I feel like that would have helped him be a better quarterback this year. Would have helped him be even sharper, more accurate, more willing to step into those throws. At the same time, it's hard to blame so much on Max because of what he's having to deal with. We've gone through all of it. We gave many excuses for why Max's performance was poor against Alabama, against Kentucky, against the last few games. Even in Florida, he had some good touchdown throws, but was quiet. We're not going to make excuses. Max played poor. There were throws where the offensive line was blocking just fine, and Max had the whole field in front of his eyes, and he kept backing up and threw off his back leg. The guy is already almost 6'4". Like, no one's catching that when you're throwing off your back leg. And so, whoever gets the ball to Jack Besh in rhythm, whoever can find Jack Besh with these easy open passes, whoever can get this offense in rhythm, unlock the potential with these receivers, they need to stay in the game. And I really feel that Garrett Nussmeier, I would not be shocked if he were to put up like a 270-yard performance in this game. I really would not be shocked. He's that talented. He's that confident. And remember, LSU's lost a lot of players. We still have weapons all over the roster. Okay? So, a lot of interesting pieces going into this game against Arkansas, where LSU know we've got to run it, but we've got to be able to pass the ball. After last week, you saw what happened. If we could have just passed just a few completions, LSU beat Alabama, number 2 Alabama. It would have been an orgasmic, cataclysmic victory for LSU had we beaten Alabama. And Max would have been the hero. No one would be talking about Max's numbers. No one would be talking about the throws he missed. They'd be talking about when it mattered, when LSU had to have it, Max delivered. I believe Max can take back the starting spot. But there has to be an evolution. There has to be... He has to raise his game. The Florida game from last year, the Ole Miss game from last year, we need to see that Max Johnson. Max sincerely needs at least 1 or 2 performances on par with that 2020 season, the end of that 2020 season, for him to feel comfortable going into the 2022 off season with the starting job in his possession. He has to have a few of those games. He's got to take down Texas A&M, and nothing else will do. He's got to beat Texas A&M. He's got to beat ULM. He's got to beat Arkansas. Max has to finish this season pretty much undefeated if he wants to stake a strong claim to that starting spot. Max, I really believe in what he can do. I just think we haven't seen the best of what he can do. I don't think we've seen Max playing his regular brand of football this season. We haven't seen him in an offense that was adequate whatsoever for his strengths. We didn't really see Max ever looking too comfortable. Even in the games where he threw 3-4 touchdowns, over 300 yards, it just didn't feel like it was ever comfortable for him. He was always, one snap away from getting knocked right on his ass, bludgeoned and bashed by this defensive line. I shouldn't even say by this defensive line, by this offensive line, letting people just bash the shit out of him. So, there's been issues. There's been problems. There's been things that he's had to deal with that a lot of quarterbacks haven't. An offensive line that's constantly shuffling. A running game that is constantly unable to get any rhythm, find its game. And then when, the passing game was where LSU were operating at a high level at the first part of the season, but the running game was completely, historically anonymous. Then we were able to get the running game going. And once we got the running game going, suddenly we can't pass the ball anymore. So you just get the worst of both worlds with that. And LSU've got to put it together cohesively against Arkansas to win this game. We at least got to run for over 150 on the ground combined. We've got to pass for at least 300 to win this game. And it's not about yards, it's about finishing these drives off with touchdowns. And I'm going to close this video with something very obvious. How the hell have LSU not even thrown a single target to Jack Bech in the red zone? Yep, you heard me. Jack Bech has not even been targeted inside the red zone. Outside of that Alabama touchdown and that Central Michigan touchdown he scored, that was when they were still outside the red zone. So, the one time that our offense gets it through their head to target Jack Bech in the red zone, he scores a touchdown against Alabama as a freshman. So maybe throw Jack Bech the damn football.